The market structures, an economics project.
A monopoly, by definition, is a firm that is the sole seller of a product without close substitutes. Complete monopolies are currently quite rare. Many firms have monopoly power, wherever the majority of goods/services have similar substitutes. Monopoly, due to exclusive ownership of a resource, is now rare as economies are larger and resources are owned by many. In the past, De Beers monopolized the diamond industry due to ownership of land and a diamond mine in South Africa. De Beers constructed exclusive contracts with suppliers and buyers to ensure De Beers' monopoly status. When faced with a threat to their diamond monopoly from the Soviet Union, De Beers offered to buy almost everything that came out of Siberia. The government may create monopolies in public interest by patents and by copyright. Patents, for example, give pharmaceutical companies the sole right to manufacture and sell the drug for several years, giving it monopoly power.
Copyright gives artists control of their creation. Patents and copyright encourage innovation and creativity.
Acquisitions, mergers and takeovers increase the size of individual firms, but decrease the number of firms in the industry. A larger firm may then develop monopoly power. A firm may take over a competitor or form a merger with it. If it now owns its rival, it may no longer have serious competition. Natural monopolies arise when a single firm can supply a good/service at a lower cost than multiple firms could, due to economies of scale. An example is Irish water. Irish water needs to be collected, treated, and delivered to the point of use. The cost of installing pipelines requires huge capital burden, which could be illogical if undertaken by several firms. Monopolies are price makers. A firm controls price and demand, however, cannot maintain both at a simultaneously high level. Profits are therefore not unlimited. Total revenue is quality sold multiplied by the price. Average revenue is total revenue divided by quantity of output. Average revenue equals the price of the good. The demand curve is the average revenue curve. The demand curve is downward sloping, and in order to sell more goods, the firm must lower prices, because they are marginally getting less revenue for every extra product that they sell. The marginal revenue curve will lie below the AOR. A firm is maximizing profit when marginal cost equals marginal revenue. Profit is total revenue minus total cost, which is the same as saying average revenue minus total average cost by quantity. As average revenue equals price, profit equals price minus average total cost by quantity. Therefore, the area shaded is profit. As there is no freedom of entry to the market, supernormal profits earned by the monopoly cannot entice other firms into the industry. This makes monopolies open to exploit customers and operate inefficiently. The government may respond to and restrict monopolies by legislation, regulation, nationalisation. Legislative bodies restrict monopoly firms' power and activities that go against public interest. In Ireland, the Competition and Consumer Protection Commission enforce consumer protection and competition law in Ireland along with European Competition Network. They act to eliminate collusion and cartels and monitor acquisitions. For example, Ryanair was prevented from buying out Aer Lingus, as it would have then created an airline monopoly in Ireland. This may have resulted in substantial price rises and a reduction in industry efficiency. The government can also regulate the prices of monopolists through subsidisation or price capping. This assures that monopolies cannot exploit their position by charging exorbitant prices to the customer. The government may acquire and run the monopoly. However, government-run bodies tend to be more bureaucratic and inefficient than those privately run. Unprofitable services may be continued for social reasons despite being uneconomical. For example, many rural post offices are loss-making. However, the government ensures the continuation of the service to avoid local backlash. By definition, price discrimination is selling the same good to different customers at different prices in order to maximize profits. In order to carry out price discrimination, a firm must possess monopoly power. For price discrimination to take place, the first firm must be able to separate the market by characteristics such as age. Cinemas sell tickets cheaper to students and children than to adults. The PED of consumers must also be different. Higher prices are charged to consumers with inelastic demand and lower prices to consumers with elastic demand. E.g., the PED of airfares for a short trip favoured by business people is inelastic in comparison to the PED for a longer stay tourist, which would be more price elastic. Price discrimination is essentially removing consumer surplus and charging each customer their exact willingness to pay. Monopolistic competition is a market structure first discussed in the 1930s by Joanne Robinson and Edward Hastings Chamberlain. Monopolistic competition describes a market structure in which firms sell products which are similar but not identical products sold by different firms. This means that there are many different firms, all of which are attempting to sell their product to the same customers. The products sold by the various firms are differentiated enough from one another that each firm has total control over the supply of the exact type of product, but not enough that they are substitutes for each other. This type of competition is apparent when one looks at any group of restaurants. Each of them are offering the same product, but each has a differentiated version of this product, forcing us to recognize a difference between this situation and one in which the model of perfect competition is applicable. Thus, it can be described as a form of imperfect competition. Take, for example, a group of 5 restaurants in a town. One is McDonald's, one's Chinese restaurant, one a sushi restaurant, a chipper and a cafe. Each business maximizes their profit by having their marginal cost and marginal revenue equal. By this quantity, their price is set. When the average total cost exceeds the price at the level of the demand where the marginal revenue and marginal costs are equal, a loss is made. Conversely, when their average total cost is below the price at this demand level, they make a profit. As is inevitable due to the firms entering and exiting the market and other external factors, the demand curve will shift to the left or right. It is when this happens that we see profit or loss. Over time, an equilibrium with the price determined by demand and the average total cost is reached, bringing economic profit to zero, as happens in cases of perfect competition. It's also quite important to be aware that monopolistically competitive firms are able to increase their production and reduce their product costs at the same time, unlike perfectly competitive firms. We also need to be aware that unlike perfectly competitive firms, those in monopolistic competition have a price above the marginal cost. Theoretically, there is a free entry to the market, but it has also been that the firms also have the power to deter new entrants by setting prices lower than necessary to limit the attractiveness of entering the market. This is called entry limit pricing. When firms do this to reduce the number of customers of other firms, it is called predatory pricing. To do this, they hold prices below the necessary level for extended periods. Due to the ease of entry and exit to the market, firms may also only serve the most profitable areas of the market, or enter and then leave the market very quickly to maximize on revenue in certain circumstances. For example, many niche pop-up shops open in the period running up to Christmas due to customers' increased willingness to spend money at this time of year. The model of monopolistic competition can be seen as a true hybrid of perfect competition and of monopoly. As we can see in the diagram here, the price is set above the marginal cost, as in a monopoly, and the profit is driven towards zero, as in a perfectly competitive market.
An oligopolistic market shares many traits common to monopolistic and imperfectly competitive markets. It is characterized by a few firms in an industry supplying a good/service, i.e. more than one firm but less than the number of sellers found in an imperfectly competitive market. An example of a modern oligopolistic market would be the banking sector. These firms offer similar services to consumers but differentiate themselves from each other through product differentiation. Many assumptions are necessary to classify a firm as an oligopolistic one. Firstly, in an oligopolistic firm, few sellers dominate the industry, and the market is closely controlled by a small number of suppliers who have the power to implement price changes of a product or the amount of output sold. This is known as a high concentration ratio and forms a fundamental part of an oligopolistic market. Firms are also interdependent. This means that any decision a firm takes should be based on the likely reaction of any rival firms in the market. This helps to explain why oligopolistic markets experience price rigidity, as if one firm increased their selling price, the other firm in the industry wouldn't follow, and the former firm would lose market share and profits. For this reason, many consumers benefit from non-price competition. Examples of such competition are points, rewards, cards in supermarkets, branding and customer service. Where these firms' product differentiation exists, as companies in the industry are selling close substitutes, they must engage in competitive advertising to convince potential customers that their product is superior to another. One of the main reasons that oligopolies exist is the existence of barriers to entry into a specific industry. There may be high initial startup costs, and existing firms have further advantages due to large economies of scale and may produce several brands known as brand proliferation. For example, in the United States, Quaker, Pepsi, and Coca-Cola have a 96% market share in the amount of sports drinks sold. There is also a scope for collusion in oligopolies. This describes a situation where two or more firms have agreed to a strict competition between themselves with the aim of increasing profits by limiting the level of output in an industry or altering the price of the good. Firms may collude in the form of a cartel, e.g. the organisation of oil exporting countries where they combine market share to gain monopolistic powers. Cartels must agree on the total output and the amount produced by each member, which causes some challenges as each firm wants to maximise its market share and individual profits. For this reason, many cartels are only formed on a short time basis. However, the short-lived nature of some cartels is also caused by antitrust laws and the fear of prosecution, as this type of explicit collusion is illegal in many countries such as the USA, and for such cartels operating in Europe, the EU Commission has the ability to ban price fixing and restrictive business practices under the Treaty of Rome 1958. However, the firms can also engage in implicit collusion, one form being the price leadership model. It's a case of simply follow the leader. The price leading firm usually will be the rival firm with the largest economies of scale or single highest market share. When the price leader reduces their individual firm's product price, the market price will follow, as the other firms want to maintain profits and the market share. Similarly, if a price leader increases their price above the market price, other firms in the oligopoly follow, as they recognize that a price war would be self-defeating in the long run. Limit pricing. Firms operating in oligopolies benefit from increased profits, as they wish to maintain these SNP in the long run. They may attempt to prevent other firms entering this profitable industry. Existing firms may collude and decide to reduce the price of their product greatly. Newer and smaller firms can't survive this fall in price, as they suffer losses and are forced out of the industry, increasing the original firm's market share, and prices can then be restored. Oligopolies have a distinctive kinked demand curve as a result of interdependency of firms and the fact that the price rigidity exists. A firm won't increase their price above the current price due to the assumption that other firms will not alter their prices. This would cause the first firm to lose market share and profits. The firm therefore faces an elastic demand, as a small percentage change in the price of the good is translated to a large percentage change in the quantity demanded of the product. However, if the firm was to decrease its price below the current price, other firms in the oligopoly will automatically change their prices to reflect that of the firm, so not to lose market share. This, however, means that the firm's total revenue will remain similar to before. The firm faces an inelastic curve, as a small percentage change in price only leads to a small percentage change in the quantity of the product demanded. So, if the firm was to set its price to P, the demand curve will kink, explaining why firms don't engage in price competition. There is no incentive to raise or lower prices, so they remain rigid. Because the demand curve is kinked, the marginal revenue curve in the industry will also consist of two separate parts. This is extremely beneficial to the firm, as it means that even if costs do change, quantity will remain unchanged. The long-run equilibrium of any firm is where the marginal curve is equal to the marginal revenue, so long as the marginal curve is rising, as seen on the graph. Due to the existence of barriers to entry in the industry, these firms will earn supernormal profits. As on the graph, the average revenue curve exceeds the average curve at the equilibrium.